Rumors are really starting to escalate regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs making a trade for Nikita Zadorov, and recent reports suggest that the Leafs have made a massive offer for the Leafs defenseman and possibly looking to also acquire Chris Tanev, and the speculation is that a deal is close and a deal may be finalized. You're going to want to stay tuned for this crazy episode of Leafs Digest, but before we do get into the video, I want to give you guys a quick reminder to go hit the subscribe button. We are on the road to 4,500 subscribers. If you enjoy the daily content, go hit the subscribe button. About 75% of you guys who are watching right now aren't subscribed. All right, let's get right into it now. I will preface this by saying speculation is starting to pick up, but this is just speculation as of right now. But this is from Steve Dangle of the SDP Network, and they do have tons of sources over there. The question is, whether you want to believe what they're saying is up to you, but the speculation is out there and it seems pretty legitimate. Let's get right into it. This dropped very, very recently as of recording. A thread on the Zadorov segment in the latest SDP episode by Banks Leaf. Shout out to this guy. He kind of transcribed the entire podcast. You can go and look at the podcast yourself, but here's what it says. After giving context about why Zadorov is getting traded and speaking about his agent, they say, quote, "What we're hearing Monday morning is that the Leafs have made their offer and they're waiting on the Flames to commit to making the trade. I think there's an agreement in place where either Zadorov and Tanev would come to Toronto." And then they go into talking about how TJ Brodie is the odd man out. Quote, "Everyone's been convinced since the Cervalli report that Brodie's out of town." This is huge. Again, you can go look at the actual Steve Dangle podcast. I believe it's an hour and 23 or so minutes in. That might be incorrect, but it's around there if you want to go listen to it yourself. But what's happening now is that Steve Dangle is reporting, and again, whether you believe Steve Dangle, whether you believe his sources, is up to you. That being said, he's broken a couple things. He has friends. Chris Johnson, who's a reliable reporter, is, of course, one of his friends. And he's not a huge credible source, but he is one of the biggest Leafs, guys. He works with the biggest Leafs reporters out there. So it's very, very interesting. They don't report a lot, but they've slowly done it. And they've had Chris Johnson on the podcast before, and Alan Walsh, who's an agent for a lot of players in the NHL. So they have tons of connections. It's not nothing. And what they're saying, and they seem very, very confident about this, if you go listen to the podcast, is that a deal is finalized even, and that a huge offer has been made. Now, whether we don't know what that offer exactly is, we can think that TJ Brodie might be out for salary purposes if Zadorov and Chris Tanev are making their way to Toronto. So if this is the case, it means that TJ Brodie could be out. And then we're thinking about what the other potential packages could be. There's tons of different ways you can go about packages. They probably want Timothy Liljegren, although he's injured right now. They probably want him included in any package, which is pretty unfortunate considering he's one of our best defensemen. That being said, if we have to ship him out and get Tanev and Zadorov back, we're in very, very good shape. Now, if it's just Zadorov, maybe a Klingberg plus a pick plus another prospect could be interesting, but I don't think the Flames would necessarily want Klingberg unless they want Klingberg and they have another team lined up, or they have another team they know is interested in potentially, Flames flipping Klingberg to that third team and a three-team, technically a three-team deal. Once the deal gets done, they can flip Klingberg, but who knows? I don't know if they'd want Klingberg. We don't know what the exact package is, but they did say that TJ Brodie is most likely on his way out. Now, he also goes on to say, "I'm not really sure what they're getting at here, and I may be missing something, but, quote, an agreement is in place. Sounds like a deal is done, and they're waiting to leave Sweden. I also don't know why they brought Brodie up. I haven't seen a single fan talking about moving Brodie." Again, this would most likely be to match the salaries if Zadorov and Chris Tanev are on the way out. They would have to ship Brodie, or in this case, they're shipping Brodie to match the salaries, along with, I would assume, maybe Liljegren and a pick, McCabe, McMahon, who knows, Nick Robertson. We don't know at this point what kind of, I wouldn't want to trade Nick Robertson for the record, but I wouldn't know, and we don't know what the exact trade package is, but there's more to this, so here's this. My guess is behind the scenes, they know some type of deal is done. Hence why Abruzzese got some hype yesterday, and SDP just hinted at more than other outlets. Now, this is very, very interesting. Here it is. So at 1 hour, 20 minutes into their latest pod, if you want to go check that out yourself to hear exactly what they have to say and make your own, assumptions based on it, you can go ahead and do that. But again, we've seen some smoke around Abruzzese, and this is the interesting thing. He got some hype yesterday. If they're including him in a trade package, then a package could look like maybe Zadorov, first Zadorov, of course, Klingberg, Abruzzese, and a pick. Maybe that's the package that they're looking at. Again, if it's just for Nikita Zadorov, that could make some sense. Again, if you're getting Chris Tanev as well, you're looking at maybe Abruzzese, Klingberg, a pick, Liljegren. I don't know if it would take all those guys, and I'm just throwing out names there that could potentially be of interest for the Calgary Flames. I don't think Klingberg, again, unless he's being a part of a flipped deal on the other end, would be willing to take on the Flames, take on Klingberg. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense from the Calgary Flames point of view. I've seen a lot of Flames fans in the comment section saying they do not want Jonathan Klingberg. Well, you guys, if you're a Flames fan, let me know in the comments if you open to Abruzzese instead. It's very, very interesting. And again, this is speculation at this point, but according to SDP, the deal is done. The deal is finalizing. The wait till Sweden ends, which is, of course, the Leafs only play 2 games in the next 12 days, so I wouldn't suspect that much happens over the next few days, and I will keep you updated with the latest reports. But again, it's looking like it's Brody, Abruzzese perhaps, a prospect, then Klingberg. Again, you have to match salaries with these things, so it's very, very interesting. The salary could work with Klingberg, which is why his name is one of the ones that keeps getting brought up. Now, I will point this out. A lot of Leafs fans under those tweets were saying, I think as per usual, the SDP guys are completely out to lunch on this one, and I want to bring this up because I want to be transparent. It's up to you guys to make your own assumptions on it. Like I said, they don't report SDP a whole lot, but they've had Chris Johnston on the podcast. They've had an agent and Alan Walsh on the podcast. Like, they have guys on their podcast and they're familiar with, and they're within the Leafs. They're talking Leafs every single day. They're not in the organization, but they have guys who are in the organization who feed them information. So take that for a grain of salt. But I also want to bring this up here. And this is a gentle reminder that Zadorov plus Tanev, both at 50% retained, would be at $4.125 million. But then Klingberg is at $4.15 million. So if Treliving can figure out the necessary picks and prospects, the cap can work. So this is kind of highlighting why Klingberg is being brought up so much in a deal. Again, Klingberg wouldn't be the focal point of the deal for the Calgary Flames unless they have some other team that they can ship him out elsewhere. But the reason that it keeps being brought up is because of the cap space, and maybe Klingberg isn't included in a framework with TJ Brody because of the cap, and then you're looking at Brody, Abruzzese, a pick, McMahon. Who knows what the package will be? Again, I'm just speculating, but it seems like Abruzzese might be on the way out, TJ Brody might be on the way out. Especially if it's Zadorov and Tanev, if that deal finalizes. If it's just Zadorov, maybe you're looking at Klingberg, Abruzzese, and a pick, someone like that. Liljegren, again, is probably a guy the Flames are holding out for and seeing if the Leafs will, pucker up and give them a player of that caliber. But I don't know. It's a wild time to be a Leafs fan. Again, this is Tanev, if you're unfamiliar with him, a very, very solid defenseman. He's not going to score, not going to put up many points, but he's a guy who would really help with the physicality side, just like Zadorov, and would really shore up the depth on the defensive end in that blue line, which is very, very important. And again, if you were unfamiliar with the report made a few days ago, Freeman said that the Leafs are interested in both of them, and agents tweet last time drew a lot of teams, so Calgary is waiting for things to settle. As of late, the Toronto and Vancouver Canucks are the 2 teams that are most interested, and then this report drops, so all things are lining up. This aligns with the Elliotte Friedman report very, very well, but we'll have to wait to see what the actual Elliotte Friedman report says before we go ahead and conclude that a deal is done. Of course, we'll wait for Elliotte Friedman to announce the deal if it is done, but if you're a Leafs fan and you like speculation and you like informed speculation, then this probably would have been a fun video for you to watch because it's very, very wild right now. It's a wild time to be a Leafs fan, and I hope a deal gets done, and I would not mind, though I don't mind TJ Brody, if we're getting back Chris Tanev and Zadorov for, Abruzzese and a pick or so, I would love to have that. But that'll wrap up the video. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on that. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. I will keep you up to date on all the latest Maple Leafs news like I always do. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you soon.